At Room to Room, did you know our specialty is custom ordered upholstery? Get the furniture you want and the fabric and color selection you want. With our free design service, we won't let you make a mistake.
When C.K. Little opened his doors in downtown Corinth nearly 80 years ago, his plan was simple: deliver excellent service and exceed expectations. That's why we say a little gift goes a long way.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 6.
Well, good evening. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather at 6 p.m. and we are tracking some showers this evening, but I think a more significant chance for storms by the weekend and maybe a more significant severe weather chance by next week. We look outside of our camera in Smithville as we start off this evening, 75 degrees current temperature. We're watching some showers out there. I don't think they're going to produce any rumbles. We're going to look at Mississippi Live Mama Justice Doppler radar on those here in a minute, but I think these evening showers remain pretty limited in overall intensity. Storms will be heavier by Friday night, and that means more probably Saturday morning. That is the first of our severe weather chances, and I think there's luckily still some questions surrounding that. We're going to look at our exclusives, something you'll see only here on Mississippi Live Weather, Storm Finder and Triple Threat, which allow us to assess just how heavy will these storms be and our confidence related to that, as well as what could we see. The triple part of that being wind, hail, tornadoes. We assess all three of those on the same graphic. We will look at that for you here in a couple minutes in the Room to Room Weather Center. Tonight, though, only a couple of isolated showers. Most of those remain very limited in overall intensity. We're only 10% or so on that rain coverage the next few hours, dropping from 73 at 7 to 68 by 10. 65 look toward 1 o'clock in the morning and back in the low 60s by early Thursday morning. And while we have some showers out there on Mama Justice Doppler radar, you can see that there's not a big vertical extent to them. This is looking out of our camera there in Aberdeen on some fairly flat looking showers at this time. 77 degrees. Is that sun now below the horizon? You can just see a little bit of glow left over from that close to the horizon there. Again, appreciate North Mississippi Storm Chasers for pairing up with us on our camera network. As you'll notice here, Mama Justice Doppler radar, I'll put this into looping mode. We've seen a downswing on the coverage of showers last hour, so stretching there from Okolona back up toward Houston and Verona and Tupelo. Again, these are really sprinkles at most at this point in time. We do have some heavier showers and storms that we are tracking. Oxford, as we look back toward the west, you can see a little bit of a tower there toward the horizon. I'll see if I can maybe zoom that in just a little bit for you. Can't get that in, but that's one of those showers that's trying to get a rumble going. Probably a better shot from Greenville looking the opposite direction. Again, appreciate Phoenix Business Building Solutions for sponsoring our Oxford camera. But this one definitely has a bit more of a vertical development to it, even a little anvil there on south as we're tracking a few other storms there. That looking from the west back toward the east there, toward these storms just south of Greenwood. Back again on Mama Justice Doppler radar. These are lifting northward into Carroll County. Put this into a loop over the course of the last hour. And projections have been very strong. Excuse me. Let's take that back. Have been very persistent on having a few isolated showers and thunderstorms. Even the last night, our projections, Futurecast there had a few out in this zone. So pretty well depicted. When I depict the lightning on this, one thing you'll note is we don't really have a whole lot of strikes showing up. We show about 22 strikes over the course of the last hour on this. And again, that is up from 0 strikes an hour ago. So it does show it's a little heavier as it moves there toward Greenwood, lifting closer to the center community. Let's go ahead and leave it on the latest scan. We'll say lifting about 20 miles per hour or so there, closer to Carrollton. Again, probably the locations on the east side of Greenwood within about the next 25 minutes or so, 20 minutes. Already starting to see again some of those lightning strikes, those flashing ones where they've just occurred in the last couple minutes. So our track here on Mama Justice Doppler radar has you at Kona there at 6:06. We're looking at Blackhawk 6:14, closer to Koala there at about 6:27, and the Valley community by about 6:44. LaFleur at 6:52. As we kind of wind things out a bit more here, we do continue to show some of those isolated storms down closer to Yazoo City and Rolling Fork. We go on kind of the wider shot here, though it's just really that one cluster that we are tracking at this time. Looking a little farther back to the north and west, where you see the green here on Mama Justice Doppler, these are some spots there in green under a severe thunderstorm watch. That in effect this evening, indicating the potential for some isolated strong to severe thunderstorms that way. Again, that's well to the west of us, and our folks over there, our friends at Arkansas Weather Network, are tracking these storms pretty clearly there. But that front is the focal point, and that front is not for us, and that's part of the reason why we miss out on the thunderstorm chances tonight. Not that I think a lot of folks necessarily consider it missing in this case. But again, you can see that little flare-up of storms east and pretty well depicted there on our Futurecast. As we bring things back in here across the state of Mississippi, additional thunderstorms down closer to Baton Rouge, just kind of this fetch of moisture lifting these storms northward the next couple of hours. We'll get in really close and look at the latest version of Futurecast here in a second. But I want to show you the overall trend, which is storms strongest back to the west. And for us, as you'll notice, pretty limited in overall intensity and coverage over the next few hours here, with a greater number of thunderstorms, again, back out into Arkansas, Texas, and Oklahoma overnight. That's where the severe weather risk for this initial round will be, again, probably for your Friday. By Saturday, I think our chances get a little bit better. But I think next couple of days, while we have some pop-up storm chances, and you can see by the afternoon on your Thursday, probably going to have some out there. We're going to start off around 61 and make our way to where we're practically at record levels again by afternoon on Wednesday. 20% on that rain coverage, meaning 80% of us mainly missing out. But that coverage goes way up by Saturday, especially Saturday morning. We're looking at the latest on when we could end up seeing some of those stronger thunderstorms. We'll look at Storm Finder right after the break on where we're placing the greatest odds of seeing thunderstorms. And next week in particular, we're already starting to outline Wednesday, a day we're circling that has that potential for some severe weather, perhaps some strong thunderstorms, maybe even tornadoes. That and more as we discuss this and look ahead as Mississippi Live Weather continues here from the Room to Room Weather Center in 60 seconds.
As we move into storm season, here's something most homeowners don't realize after a storm. Roof damage isn't always obvious. Wind can lift shingles, breaking the seal. Hail can bruise them below, and flashing around chimneys and pipes can loosen without you ever knowing. That damage may not show up for months. If your area has strong wind or hail, a professional inspection will help bring you clarity before small damage turns into bigger problems.
This portion of Mississippi Live Weather is presented by Little's Jewelers.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's Mississippi's Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lovehon.
On the wide shot here on Mama Justice Doppler radar, what you'll notice is, again, this big long stretch of severe thunderstorm watches back to the north and west. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather. I'm meteorologist Matt Lovehon. You'll see our meteorologist Gabe Maynor come up here in a few minutes. Severe weather risk outlines perfectly, again, where we have this threat for this evening. You level 2 threat, meaning greatest number of reports. For tomorrow, that threat shifts farther back to the west, and I'll kind of pull off all of our alerts for a moment to kind of concentrate on that. This is our severe weather risk for your Thursday. For Friday, again, largely back to the west of us as well. It does expand a little bit closer, as you'll note here, by Friday. Late evening and overnight, as storms are probably starting to run out of some of the instability by early Saturday morning. In saying that, we don't have an official severe weather risk for Saturday morning. I do think that as we get closer, we will probably end up with a severe weather risk. I would say a level 1 risk certainly remains a reasonable expectation out of this, assuming I made the world's worst one there. You know, we could also just do a 1 with a line 1 like that. But I think a level 1 severe weather risk seems reasonable with some sporadic wind and maybe even a couple of hail reports as we get closer. We will see, probably not the quantity of hail or size that we had last week. Back again here to Mama Justice Doppler radar. We do have a couple isolated showers that have kind of popped up over the course of the last little bit here as we bring it in closer across North Mississippi. They all remain relatively weak. In saying that, still some lightning strikes near the Sidon community. I mentioned these were kind of encroaching upon Greenwood there. Let's go ahead and put this into a loop here. And as we kind of show that lifting northward closer to Greenwood, again, moderate to heavy rainfall. There are lightning strikes with this, number of lightning strikes up a little bit more over the course of the last hour or so. So as we get kind of a close-in track here, I'll make sure we include Greenwood on this track. So I'm going to start to go a little wider to the west there just to kind of make sure we have that and shows up there. Go about 23 miles per hour. So we show Greenwood, we're looking at about 6:20, current time 6:10. So 10 minutes or so, that's kind of the middle portion of town there. Again, some lightning with this, those flashing strikes. That's the most recent cloud-to-ground lightning strike that this thunderstorm has produced there. A couple ways we can look at this. One of the probably best is looking out of our camera in Winona as that populates in here, looking in towards some of those showers back in there, kind of a different angle. This is that heavy rainfall, some low-hanging stuff, and you do actually see kind of the top of the thunderstorm kind of extending up there as well, but not a lot of lightning showing up on this camera. 79 degrees current temperature there in the Winona area. Notice that dew point's a little higher as well, 63. That tells you there's at least enough moisture to get some rumbles out of this. Another way to look at rumbles is using Storm Finder. Again, exclusive you'll see only here on Mississippi Live, and you'll compare what we have here across North Mississippi to what they have back to the west. We clearly see a lot of lightning, a lot of storms, likely severe weather next couple of days in that direction. As we go through your Thursday, you can see pretty good flare up again onto the plains. That's where the severe weather risk is the most likely for tomorrow. For us, notice we start to get some of the purple showing up here as we head into Friday, even late Friday, indicating storm chances are increasing. Explicit, which is the way we've described the way lightning and the actual precipitation shows up on here, where it's saying, hey, we see exact storms there. We don't have very many over top of us, but I think the confidence in us seeing storms will increase as we go into late Friday night and early Saturday. Now, I do think this particular version of our strike model could be just maybe a little bit behind on its positioning here. But as you can see, by early Saturday morning, it shows the majority of what will be a line of thunderstorms, and the lightning and everything goes with it, is going to be back out toward the west. As we head throughout your Saturdays, you can see by midday, more likely to have some of that over top of us and kind of moving into and through the area. But what you will notice is also there's kind of a preference. Southern portion of this line more likely to have some of those thunderstorms a little bit stronger. That's not to say we don't have something northward, and in particular this concentrates on lightning strikes and quantity of lightning strikes, but I think there's enough indications there that we're going to have some thunderstorms. Still remains possible some could be strong to severe on Saturday. We'll look at triple threat coming up here in a minute, but as you can see into Sunday, those conditions get a little bit more limited on rain chances, but I think into next week we'll have plenty more on the way. Here's a look at Futurecast, again showing those isolated showers and thunderstorms popping up, similar spots where we were showing you a moment ago there. Winona, Duck Hill to Grenada, still up closer to Oxford by around 8:30 to possibly 9 p.m. for tonight. But again, we're looking at this, that's heavy rainfall. This is not likely going to be severe weather, and most of that diminishes by 10. Maybe still some rumbles out there, Yalobusha County, close to Water Valley, but again, mostly dry overnight, though we will have maybe a rogue sprinkle or two possible. The cloud cover widespread, a sign again that moisture coming out of the Gulf of Mexico. So lows were 61 degrees New Albany and Tupelo, 62 in Grenada, well above our normal for this time of year, 41. I mean, come on, we're almost 15 degrees above that there, or almost 25, I should say, above that there in Greenville, coming in at 65 degrees. Your IMPC school bus forecast, we're 62 at pickup, 80 at drop-off. Some spotty showers possible on your Thursday. Most of us, again, will probably be dry, because anytime we show 20% on there on the rain chance, that means 80% of us end up with nothing, or at any given time. So hopefully that means dry for getting the kids home from school tomorrow, but I think we will have some isolated pop-up showers. Here is a look at Futurecast, and you'll notice it doesn't have a whole lot for our area. 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, the more active weather close to our kind of stalled out frontal system back to the west. So this is really the area where storms are the most likely tomorrow. Notice a few little bits of green, maybe even a couple bits of yellow over top of North Mississippi. Let's bring it in a little closer to kind of show those. And again, rumbles not impossible out of this, but you'll notice just only a few spots where it even shows some of the darker oranges or even a red showing up, versus back out into Arkansas where it's a lot more likely. That's where the severe weather threat is for your Thursday back west of us. A little rumble it showed near Winona. Similar spots to today. We'll go 82, the high there in Grenada and Kosciuszko and Greenwood there. 82 Belzona, 79 degrees in Cleveland, and coming in 80 in New Albany and Tupelo. Normal this time of year, 63, and the record is 81. So we show only 1 degree off from a record high for tomorrow. By Thursday night, again, any sort of pop-ups we have tomorrow gone fairly quickly here, and then looking relatively dry as we head into late Thursday night and early Friday morning. Our concentration continues to be back out toward the plains. Wider shot here shows kind of some of the components that will come into play for our Friday night and Saturday storm chances. Kind of have a upper level system here kind of paired up with this surface system back out on the plains. That'll mean some late night and early morning thunderstorms on your late Thursday night and early Friday morning, as you can see there. But we still have wide open Gulf of Mexico transporting in moisture and still priming us for what will likely be Saturday storms. So low temperatures Friday. We're 60 in Bruce, 62 degrees in Houston, Starkville, and Columbus. Again, well above 41, we typically expect. We're 64 in Greenville and Belzona and Greenwood to start early Friday morning, 61 in Tupelo. So here's that cloud cover moving in, moving through, and a couple isolated showers, maybe a rumble possible by Friday afternoon, but notice just how small these are. These are not large showers and thunderstorms. You'll see Futurecast here in a minute. You'll understand why I highlight that. But again, maybe a rumble, and that should probably be it. And I think that means for our Mississippi Live Game of the Week, we go baseball with that this week, and excited for how that's going to end up playing out. But certainly hoping to keep things dry for that game as well. High temperature, we're 79 in New Albany and Tupelo. We're 80 degrees in Houston, 83 for Grenada, and 84 Belzona and Greenville by your Friday afternoon. Friday night, the active weather still west of us. It's all along that same frontal system, and it's going to be kind of pushing in, finally sort of moving more toward us with a lot more active weather Friday night into pre-dawn early Saturday morning. Again, this strike model here, latest one coming in just in the last couple minutes, as it beautifully does during our 6 o'clock broadcast. So that means we always get to look at the latest one at the exact same time. So you'll get my hot read on this. And again, all those thunderstorms, heaviest and strongest back out into Arkansas with this latest look at this here. So as that front moves in from the west, you'll notice how this shows the front getting a little bit ahead. So this is a difference from what we were looking at during our 5 o'clock broadcast, even kind of behind the scenes here, is we show that front, that the line of thunderstorms is running about 50, maybe 60 miles farther west if you're going directly west from where it's at. That later timing could allow us to get a little bit more unstable air up here for thunderstorms to work off of. This does have a pretty clear-cut bowing segment on the north side here, up into Tennessee, maybe some stronger wind gusts there, but it also is not over the top on intensity. So that is a reduction, I'd say, in the intensity from what we were looking at even at 5 o'clock. One of the beauties of the strike models, again, the latest always comes in between the broadcasts here, so you always get to see it hot off the presses with us. This looks weaker. I would say I feel less impressed by the severe weather chances on this versus what strike model had at 5 o'clock. I think the slower timing, for one reason or another, is not really helping it. I think part of it is, again, the angle of this front is still very east-west front, so hopefully that limits the intensity a little bit on that. Severe weather, again, on Saturday, not an impossibility. Some strong wind gusts, the main factor, but as you saw in our latest strike model, luckily still some questions related to that. We're going to break down triple threat, and let's look at those different threats coming up here in 60 seconds after the break. But I think rain chances continue into part of Sunday there. A lot of us drier for Sunday, more limited coverage of storms by Monday and Tuesday, but Wednesday of next week, severe weather chances on the upswing. We will look at those threats coming up here in a couple of minutes. But takeaway number one, just some showers, just a couple of rumbles out there tonight. Not impossible to get a few for tomorrow, but most of us probably dry for tomorrow and into Friday. Okay, coming up in 60, we're breaking down triple threat right after the break.
I don't know why you're so sad. You've got a roof over your head.
You gotta stop with that depression stuff.
You alright?
It just feels like it's coming from everywhere.
Do you want to talk about it?
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad.
Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?
You're not gonna get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff.
Mama!
Like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Welcome back to Mississippi Live Weather at 6. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside our meteorologist Gabe Maynor. We'll be talking to Gabe about his thoughts as we kind of debate the storm chances looking into next week here in the Room Weather Center here in a couple moments. And we do appreciate all of you for joining the conversation. You can see beside me here a lot of questions about looking towards some storms. I see someone mentioning the Gulf of America. One of these days, I'm going to tell you right now, if I could put it on there so I could read it off as I went through, one of these days I'll say it. It's hard to make an old dog new tricks, and I'm not that old, but geography is, believe it or not, the last thing I think of when I'm doing this. So I will eventually get Gulf of America in there. I don't know when that'll happen. I've been saying that since the TV station, so we'll eventually get there. But let's look at triple threat. And so triple threat allows us to kind of combine all of the different threats we think of when we look for severe weather all in the one graphic. So we have rotation, we have wind, and we have hail, all on one projection here. So let's calibrate that for a moment to give you an idea what this sort of looks like. Back out on the plains, again, we do have some of the rainfall and the storms depicted on there, but what you see here with these red stripes are rotating thunderstorms, and the blue would be spots where our projections have set down some hail back there. So that's kind of what it looks like when you have some severe weather chances. In the next couple of days, those chances are going to be continuing. They'll be back to the west of us. And you'll see here in some of those spots, we layer the hail on bottom below the rotation, but as you can see, showing the Texas Panhandle, some really rough looking thunderstorms. In particular, I think rotation for hail. That's typically where it is, but there'll be a tornado threat out there as we look toward tomorrow. So that's what it looks like when you're looking some bona fide severe weather, really rotating thunderstorms, and some stripes of yellow there indicating some damaging winds behind that as well. So notice all the way into early Saturday, this shows the majority of that activity, again, continuing to be out on the plains. But Saturday is the day that it works more toward us, in particular, Saturday morning. Now, this version of our triple threat coming in within, again, this broadcast. So we're going to hit this live. You'll see this the same time I see this. First thing I notice is any red stripes are not particularly impressive, right? Because they're just kind of faded out there. I can see all of my precipitation in the background there. We're going to wipe this off to give you kind of the accumulated threat here in just a moment. But the first thing I notice is I don't have any strong, bright rotation tracks on this latest version. A good sign and hopefully something that will maintain. And they'll notice the overall coverage of storms shifting southward through. We'll continue to have some heavy storms, maybe even some strong thunderstorms into late Saturday night. As I pull all the other information off, first thing you can note, look what this looks like when you see some damaging winds on kind of a more dedicated scale. We have that back here into Kansas where it's detecting, okay, some accumulated strong winds. Back into Texas, you can see the red, what we talked about, indicating the rotating storms, and all the bluish colors there in purples indicating hail. Sporadic hail reports into Oklahoma and into Arkansas over the next few days. When you come here to Mississippi, we don't really have much. Now, I will say it does show that there's a couple spots here where maybe it's trying to depict a little bit of hail out there into Alabama and Mississippi, but this is not a high-end hail threat by any stretch of the imagination. It's not impossible to get a couple of hailstones with this Saturday, and I don't see any stripes. What we look at on triple threat when we're looking for significant and impactful rotation is we look for a big bright stripe of red, and we don't really see that on there. So fingers crossed, knock on wood, say what you want to say on that. Indications at least now keeping most of these storms below severe limits for Saturday in particular, but beyond that, that's when some of the questions arise. Let's look here at that. And in particular, we're looking toward next week. That is one of our focal points as far as storms are concerned. I'm going to kind of drag this in here for a moment. Now, this is not today. This is looking a week from today. And so this is our severe weather threat, or the week from yesterday, our severe weather threat for locations on the plains, as you can see, for next Tuesday. Well-defined level 2 out of 5 risk. We don't officially show a risk area for our zone yet, but that would be a day 8 risk. And the only time the Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma puts out a day 8 risk is when we're looking at really, truly high-end severe weather. There are questions, a lot of questions surrounding this, and hopefully more than answers, but I think we're going to have some severe weather by then, and let's look at why. As we analyze the jet stream here, it's a river of fast-moving air in the upper levels of the atmosphere. You can see what's going to continue to bring some active weather for the plains next couple of days. Thursday, this is, tomorrow, big trough out there toward the west, lots of little waves of energy moving through that trough eastward until you get it in just the right spot that it digs up and produces storms and severe weather out on the plains. Kind of divides up into a lead wave and then kind of the main wave behind it. That lead wave is what causes that elevated level 3 out of 5 severe weather risk on the plains. As this kind of pulls back and it becomes more extended for Saturday, we don't have as strong a upper level support as locations back north and west. That's why we might have a little more fuel for thunderstorms, but they're not going to stay as organized this weekend. One of the many reasons we think we'll have a couple of damaging wind reports potentially, maybe a few hailstones, but this is not a high-end severe weather event. But looking toward next week, it's that part that doesn't kick out that we're going to have to watch. It becomes what we call a cutoff low-pressure center. It's just, see how there's just a divide here between all the strong winds up north and where this one's kind of swirling around down south. And so in that setup, this southern storm system has to kick out before things start getting more active here. This is why we have that very well-defined severe weather risk on the plains for Tuesday. This would be what we call a synoptically evident severe weather setup, where this is, everything's right for this to produce severe weather back out into Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, perhaps Missouri, and Arkansas, maybe even Louisiana. So our day probably is Wednesday as this is starting to eject. Here's what becomes the question. How negatively tilted is this? What does that mean? Okay, so do you see how this is very much straight north-south, if I can get my arm perfectly right? See how north-south that is there? When it kind of swings more like this, there's got to be a better way to do that. Okay, so it's north to south. When it swings more like this, we call that a positive tilt. And it swings more like that, it's a negative tilt. Okay, so it's kind of like it's digging it up. Think of like a bulldozer and a shovel kind of moving through the atmosphere. This is still fairly neutral, and a neutral tilt can still give us severe weather and possibly even tornadoes. If we look a little closer here for Wednesday, again, this is not today, this is next Wednesday. The yellow you see here is going to be some mid-level lift with this, and then the upper level wind speeds, all of that kind of indicating I think we have enough lift to produce more active and possibly some severe weather by the time we get into Wednesday late in the day, perhaps even early Thursday morning. We'll see how the timing works. Notice how this is a little bit more negatively tilted like this. And maybe this is hard to kind of initially pick out, but it kind of has more of that northwest to southeast angle there. So that's one of the things that makes me wonder if it's going to have enough to really kind of dig things up by that point in time. I think it could. And so that's why we're thinking severe weather chances for next week with this storm system as it moves in. So again, as we revisit the severe weather risk, very obvious what we call synoptically evident severe weather risk for Tuesday for locations back on the plains. For our region, I think it's very reasonable that we probably have a severe weather risk. And I would say, for an early look here, I would feel pretty confident putting the entirety of North Mississippi under one of those severe weather risks. Again, this is not an official risk. We will have one of those before we're said and done here, but I think pretty confident here that this is not today, Wednesday. This is a week from Wednesday. We're going to probably have some strong to severe thunderstorms. So unfortunately, not what a lot of folks want to hear, but that is what we're going to time out with there. So hopefully that helps in our discussion. By the way, as you're joining the conversation next to me, we appreciate all of you for that. And all of your advice and all the things that you say and all of your reports. But make sure to support us here. That's the reason I leave this up, so you can see all of the different sponsors that support us here on Mississippi Live Weather, whether it's Little's Jewelers, whether it's IMPC, and so many other folks, just to support those people that support us here on Mississippi Live Weather. It makes a big difference. Do you want to bring in our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, here, who has been kind of looking at a bunch of different projections as well. And Gabe, I see the scribbles there on the monitor next to you. So yeah, just kind of looking at the latest there, I'm interested on what it did on Saturday in particular, looking at the strike model. I feel like it slowed it down a lot.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's going to be a battle of the angle of the front as well as the unstable atmosphere that develops by the afternoon. Could we get a few of those stronger storms? I don't think that's at all impossible, but severe storms, that's going to be 58 miles an hour or greater, 1 inch hail or greater, or any rotation attached to it. That's not really where I'm seeing this land. And despite it moving more towards the afternoon, I just don't really see that lining up with the direction of the front like you've been mentioning yesterday and today, and carrying that over into the 6 o'clock broadcast as well.
Okay, I'm gonna keep your microphone on here behind the scenes. We're gonna look here at this particular version of Futurecast. Now, this is gonna kind of, and I'll pop your mic up for you, and if you stay over at the monitor, then I'll pop it back and forth, I think, a little bit. But this is, one of our high-resolution versions of Futurecast. Continue to show, again, those thunderstorms in the Saturday night and Sunday and into late Sunday. Again, quite a few thunderstorms around, mainly south of us during that point in time. That same stalled front, though, I think that acts as, kind of a southern end limiting factor on where the thunderstorms are, heaviest. And honestly, where the moisture is, that's really not that far removed to get moisture right back up here and fuel storms next week.
For sure. In the same way this timing has changed here in the last couple of runs, that could happen again, getting more into Saturday. Now, it has been kind of limiting in our severe weather factor, but still the positioning could change, and that could alter how we look at this. And so that's why we're mentioning it on Wednesday for Saturday event. By the time we get towards Thursday, Friday, and confidence does increase, I think that's going to be a big tell in regards to how we go about Saturday. But again, with how things have trended, and we've been tracking it all week long, it does look to be sub-severe for the most part. But like you were mentioning, Matt, down south, there's better ingredients as well.
There are, and so then how much of those get up here looking to next week? Well, let's look at the best we can do on a high-res model here for a moment, and I'll get your thoughts on this here in just a second, Gabe. So this is a version of our strike model that goes long range, and so again, this is a lower resolution version, but you can see, again, most of those rain and storm chances south. This is not going to probably get up here into the reds very often because it's, when we're looking at convective systems, those tend to be somewhat more limited on their overall size, obviously. So looking in the Monday of next week, things much more active back out into Texas, back to the west of us. That storm system we show by late Monday starting to dig up more moisture up here, and by Tuesday you can see storms very plentiful out there on the plain. So this is there for an example of a fairly confident scenario where we have severe weather back out on the plains. That's the way this kind of looks there into your Tuesday. Let's see what it shows into Wednesday for us. So you can see Wednesday AM still has the main overall storm system back to the west, and runs out of data before we can make it to Wednesday PM. One thing I will note on this, I'll bring Gabe in here as we kind of go back and forth talking about this, is the positioning of the surface system here is still a little farther west than what I think GFS and maybe even Euro have on that there. Cutoff lows are notorious for just taking their time.
For sure. And I think that's one of the things that, are preventing the Storm Prediction Center from issuing potentially a day 8 outlook, is because there's differences in our strike model, there's differences in the GFS, there's differences in the Euro. And because those things aren't exactly lining up, there is still some things that we need to get answered as we head over the next couple of days. So I think there will be a severe weather risk similar to how you were mentioning a moment ago, but where that sets up is going to be determined by the positioning of the low and where kind of that frontal system takes place. But Matt,
and ultimately it's just when does the upper level system kick out, right?
Exactly. And so right now, I believe it's still kind of out in the Pacific, just sticking around out there and kind of cycling in some of the moisture for Southern California. But in regards to, getting all the way here in Mississippi, it's got to go through a little bit of a development process before we do see the effects of that into midweek next week.
And that's why the upper level wind network, when we talk about, sending weather balloons up there, once we get that on the land, we're able to sample it. Models get tons better at that point. And as you mentioned, just off of the West Coast now where the storm system is, we still have a day or so before we start getting that model that ingested in the models, and that will greatly improve them. Appreciate that, Gabe. And a reminder here for our meteorologist, Maggie McCauley, will have updates tomorrow morning starting at 6:37 and 7:30 a.m. here in the Room to Room Weather Center. She'll be looking at any shower and rain and thunderstorm chances we have out there, as well as breaking down the latest on some of these storm chances. It's not unreasonable that we have a severe weather chance that is extended there into your in particular your Saturday. I think probably on a limited scale. She'll have updates at 6:37 and 7:30 a.m. here in the Room Weather Center. I'm going to bring Gabe back in. We're going to track a few things here on radar because it does look like a fairly heavy one there, kind of east of Greenwood. Gabe, you had something real quick?
Well, one thing with the forecast heading into this weekend is folks are already preparing. Mississippi State baseball moving the start of their series to Thursday, so we'll have to update some of our graphics showing that game day forecast, but that's a change, and they're monitoring for game 2 and 3 where that needs to be scheduled. I would be shocked if they tried to mix in a doubleheader on Friday, but I mean, I'm not the scheduler. I just forecast the weather. So that's basically what we're looking at here at Mississippi Live Weather, but you know, already shifting that game time match shows that there's some pretty high outputs of rainfall and pretty high outputs of storms that are going to be impacting us one way or another, severe or not.
Well, the thing is it's disruptive versus severe weather. Severe weather is damaging, but if you're vulnerable and out at a ballpark, you know, at the best case scenario, it just keeps people home. Worst case scenario, obviously something worse than that. So we'll monitor that. Appreciate that, Gabe. We're going to do a little tracking here, some bonus coverage on Mississippi Live Weather here at 6. And Gabe, I'll be kind of watching to see if, in case we have anything. But this lightning's come up a bit on this storm out there near Greenwood. Let's look wide on the shot there. That is our strongest. And sometimes when we have one that kind of leads like this, it's not impossible to get a small hailstone or two with this. We'll look at our hail threat tracker here in just a moment. But that's kind of worked on the east side there of Greenwood, working toward the Watley community. And let's look longer term at this. Let's double check the speed. So give me just a moment to kind of put this into motion. We'll make this a 1 hour loop here. I might have picked up a little speed from what we had earlier. About 25 miles per hour. So maybe we can go 30 on that. So let's track that 30 miles per hour toward the north. And again, a couple of small hailstones, not impossible out of that. There we go, about 29, we'll say. So the Watley community at about 6, well, pretty much right now, showing up there. Valley community at 640, 642 Avalon, LaFleur at 647. We're looking at Parsons at 653. Oxbury there at 701. Dubbard at 709. Bew Springs at 712. Paul at 721. And Tillatoba about 734. This is a lightning, this heavy rainfall. Let's check the hail potential on this. And so we do have a hail threat monitor brought to you by the good folks at True Shield Roofing. We come in a little closer, you can see where there's a possibility of maybe seeing a little bit of hail out of this, but possible as high as it gets on this track, just kind of looking at it. Let's look at the instantaneous hail. And we're going to check it from a couple different angles. We're looking a long ways away from this. It does not look at this instant. It's not particularly convinced. Let's go back to the Jackson radar site there, which looks to be the closest. So possible hail as much as we see on that. But luckily, this is not probable or likely like what we had last week, but not impossible to have a couple of hailstones on this as it continues northward there, and certainly some lightning with that. We'll check a couple of cameras, see if we can get a look at that there. The Greenwood camera, I do believe, is down. I'm hopeful maybe that'll come up. Yeah, no, that's down. But Winona, I've kind of watched out of the corner of my eyes. We've had a decent number of lightning strikes showing up on our Winona camera here. As we kind of pan that back toward the right a little bit, we'll look a little bit more northwest. There's some of the lightning that you're seeing there in Winona. You can appreciate the North Mississippi Storm Chasers for pairing up with us on this camera network there that we do have. And right there, again, there's some of the heavier precipitation, whatever that is. Does look like it's knocked down our reporting station there. There's some lightning strikes kind of popping on there. So it's not nonstop lightning. It's not severe weather at this point, but certainly a little disruptive there west of Winona in Carroll County in particular at this instant. Let's see. We did have a shot on it all the way from Greenville a little bit ago. We can check a couple of our other cameras here to sort of see what we have on that. Again, looking from a kind of a ways away at the tops of those thunderstorms, still fairly heavy there. I'm going to check our Greenville camera, so give me a moment to kind of pan that in. That might not let me change the direction on that directly. Hold on. As again, I'm still learning some of the ways in which we can control it. I thought I could do that. We'll pan this back to the left. Yeah, see, that's the one there that's producing some of the hail. So from Greenville, it's a long shot, perhaps we have a slightly better one if we go north just a little bit there. So this is our camera there in Cleveland. You can kind of see what we call a glaciated. Well, that's kind of one of the thunderheads that kind of falls apart there. It's a sign of weakening on that. Let's get an angle from Cleveland, as we'll pan this one back to the right a little bit. So see, that is looking southwest from Cleveland. We need to be looking back toward the east. So that shows you where those are a little weaker. As I kind of flip this around, we're going to look through, I think, some of the showers, some of the tower there to kind of see some of those showers pretty much right behind where that is. That's that leading storm. So I'm going to pan it a little bit farther to the left, so it will kind of emerge into that camera here in just a moment. So give me a second here, as I think I made the camera a little unhappy. So that'll pop back on here in a moment. Let's see if we go upstream one more camera of what we've got. There we go, and back towards Shelby. Again, that one looking back toward the west as well. Everything to the west is a little bit weaker. Come back here to Cleveland. Oh, I did make it a little unhappy there. Gabe, have we had any reports there in our chat of anything related to this here? I'm bringing our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, here for a moment. Anything, Gabe? Oh, I see what happened. We clicked off that. Okay.
Is my mic on? There it is. So as of right now, no confirmed reports. We did get some reports of just rain throughout the evening as it moves through parts of our area. But as of right now, no reports of hail, no reports of any damage, which is a good sign. But there is that special weather statement on those storms working their way through, again, the Cleveland area, as well as some of the central portions of our viewing area. So Matt, keeping eyes on that. But as of right now, no reports, and that's a good sign whenever we're talking about a stormy night.
Yeah, it is. It is. Appreciate that, Gabe. I'm going to come back over here. Our camera in Shelby, as I kind of have this one spin around, it is looking for storms. It is gone on the lookout for that. I'm going to see if I can look. It's looking more northeast and east. Let's pop that back on here as we've kind of spun it around. We don't always have the best viewpoint here from where we're looking to the east, because typically these cameras are all kind of designed to look back toward the west as storms are kind of coming in from the west, as opposed to try to kind of get the backside of it here. But yeah, just kind of looking back through that storm from our Shelby camera, don't have a good visual on that, unfortunately, because we're looking right there through the tower. I'm going to get this thing really wide. I think it zoomed in a little farther than I'd liked. Actually, hold on a second. So what you're seeing is running just a moment behind what I'm seeing here. So give me just a second. We'll have a good shot of this here in just a moment. So again, Shelby is far enough east. We don't have a whole lot of issues there. I see someone asking, is it going to rain in Coffeyville? I do think we have a decent chance of that. This is where it's kind of panning it back there. And there are some of those thunderstorms looking from Shelby back toward the east into that. Some decent development on that. And a few lightning strikes. 75 in Shelby. Again, a decent number of cloud-to-ground lightning strikes. And that's probably the most noteworthy thing out of anything that we have seen. Again, back here on Mama Justice Doppler radar. And we'll look, again, no severe weather out of this today. We're just tracking, again, a couple of these thunderstorms. Does look like, again, from as far away as we're looking there from the radar site in Monroe County, as well as from the one down in Jackson. Let's go ahead and check Memphis just so we have the trifecta there. Yeah, this storm is losing some of its intensity even at this point. But for folks there in Coffeyville that we're asking, I think it's possible that this holds together for you. We'll do a 30-mile-per-hour track. Kind of that direction there. Give me a moment to extend that a little bit more. Let's say 50 miles. So for Coffeyville, if this were to hold together, we still have a little while before that happens. So we show Tilatoba there by around 7:30. So this shows Coffeyville by 7:46 and 8:08 in the Water Valley. Grenada at 7:15. I would say certainly the heaviest portion of this is on the west side of that. So there's a decent chance that this slides just a little west of you in Grenada, Coffeyville, and Water Valley, maybe. Take kind of that second batch there if that were to still hold together. to possibly catch you. So what I'm going to do is we'll have to, I think, retrack that. Maybe that second batch, but I think that's also probably pushing it a little bit. So anyway, still going to be a while even before it gets up there to Grenada as well. Okay, our next live broadcast is going to be coming up tonight at 10 p.m. here in the Room to Room Weather Center. An updated look at our future cast and some of the storm chances for tonight. If anything, gets to the point where it could be potentially damaging outside of lightning strikes, which clearly from time to time have their own impacts, even if, wind and stuff like that doesn't get to that level. We'll, of course, be monitoring things here in the Room to Room Weather Center. Keep it here for the latest. Appreciate everybody in our chat. Again, we'll hit the chat one more time here for everybody at home. Just kind of looking through what we've kind of had coming in the last few minutes. Supper time. Be back at 10. Appreciate that. G Price. See everyone there at 10. Watching from Corinth and Calhoun County and Toronto. I'm glad to have you in Memphis as well, watching us here on Mississippi Live Weather. Kashilla, Mississippi. Okay, I got to tell you, I don't know Kashilla yet, so give me a moment to get out the Google machine and see if I can find it. Map. Now hold on. That's spelled with a K. I have a Kashilla. No, hold on. I did not spell it right. K-A-H. Kashilla. So that might be Kashilla. Give me a moment here. Kashilla. Okay, I have a Kashilla, and that might be the intent there. That's Tallahatchie County. Let's see here. Okay, north of Holcomb. Okay, got it. That's kind of out in the south part of the county there. So, okay, good deal. Well, learned a new one today. Tupelo is going to be fine, John. And I think, kind of give you the big recap here. We're looking at storm chances increasing a little bit next couple days. Nothing that's super duper impressive. In fact, probably easiest way to do this is showing the overall risk areas over the next week. So SPC risk area from the Storm Prediction Center, peak threats back out into the plains for tonight. For tomorrow, as you can see, farther back west, closer to Lubbock, Texas, and Oklahoma City and locations that way. By Friday, encompassing more locations, eastern Oklahoma, Kansas, back up there toward the Midwest. And by Saturday, you'll notice magically that severe risk drops off the map. Part of the reason is, again, confidence decreases. I think it's reasonable that we could have a level 1 severe weather risk as we get closer, including our area. Level 2, not impossible, but not particularly likely. And then no severe risk for day 5, but by next week, by next Tuesday, a severe weather risk already level 2 out of 5 for locations back out onto the plains, and then expanding farther into our area probably by next Wednesday. So this is not today, this is a week from today, and I feel highly confident we'll probably have at least a level 2 severe weather risk unless something changes. Of course, this is our opportunity to warn you first on that as we plan ahead there. So keep it up. And of course, we'll be watching very closely as we get in. Hey, look, we did find Kashilla. Appreciate that. Hey, new one every day. We'll see if I can learn that one and imprint it on my brain. Hopefully faster than I can get Gulf of America eventually on there as well. We'll see y'all at 10 o'clock unless Gabe's got something else. I'll let him pop in down there just in case. Should say it again. Download our Roku, Apple TV apps, as well as our smartphone apps. And Mama Justice there, one of our sponsors of Mama Justice Doppler Radar, Mitchell Cunningham Bowling. I do not see Mr. Gabe Maynor anywhere. So
I was just going to pop my mic up, but I can join real quick. Basically, what I wanted to say and what I wanted to add real quick was we are keeping up with our high school sports coverage. We actually do have our 6A state championship tomorrow evening for both boys and girls, and our Ethan Foster has made his picks. He is 8-0. So, folks, as we head into championship week, we are hoping that Ethan can continue that streak, but he's going to be highlighting some of the teams that are playing tomorrow. He's also joining us Friday for those matchups, and then Saturday as well, kind of previewing what to expect and our area teams that are going to be be repping us here in North Mississippi. Proud to have several teams, and good luck to everyone down there. And Matt, we also have highlights coming up at 10. I'm working on that behind the scenes.
That's what Gabe has been pouring over those highlights. We also have Game of the Week going baseball this week, right?
Yes, and that is going to be over there in Houston. Folks excited about that. We're excited to get the latest edition of our Game of the Week. We've done football. We've done basketball. Now we're headed to the Diamond to see baseball and softball. So, Matt, I am thrilled about it. I know that you're thrilled about it. You are.
Oh, yeah, super excited.
As of right now, everything's good to go Friday night in Houston, right? Like with storms and stuff?
Yeah, I think so, right?
I've not heard anything. So Houston representatives, let us know if anything changes. But we do think that everything should be good to go. Now, if it was Saturday, we'd probably be talking a different story. But Friday should be good to go, and we're going to get all those highlights for you. And we are also doing our Fans of the Week. But Matt, we have a new mention for baseball season.
Yeah, most valuable non-player. And so what we're doing with this is there's always that person that's kind of the X factor. It might be a coach. It might be an individual fan. It might be a parent. It might be a bat boy or a diamond girl. Who is that person that just makes your team sparkle a little bit more? Nominate those. We'd love to see the real MVP, but in this case, again, this is the non-player, and we're excited to kind of launch that as part of our Mississippi Live Game of the Week, presented as it has been all the way through football and baseball season by the good folks at Langston Lott and Casey Lott. Just so glad to be a partner with them here on Mississippi Live.
For sure, Matt. I'm excited to see it here in the Room to Room Weather Center, and we'll get out there Friday night for a good time.
And we will see some of those highlights from down there in Jackson coming up tonight at 10 o'clock as well. Before we go, one other thing to note as we pivot back again toward weather. As we go deeper into severe weather season, now is the time to be thinking about Weather Call. It's a phone alert that will let you know if a tornado is coming toward you. If a storm that's prompted a tornado warning has been upgraded to a confirmed tornado, it calls you back. If severe thunderstorms are coming toward you, there's a checkbox where you can select calls for that. For major flash flooding, like what we had back in Texas last year that killed all those kids, if a flash flood emergency is issued, it will call you for that. So these layers of protection that go on top of the Mississippi Live Weather app, all options there. And so, yes, there is a cost that goes along with it. It supports us here at Mississippi Live Weather, but most of that $15 goes right there to the folks at Weather Call, because making phone calls still costs money. It's the reason we still have a cell phone bill, right? Okay. We will see you coming up at 10 o'clock here. Thank you again so much for joining us here in the Room to Room Weather Center. 5, 6, and 10. We're here every day. And Maggie will have updates tomorrow morning as things get closer. Likely a risk area issued for some locations probably on Saturday. We will look in toward that. She'll be the first one with those updates. 6:37, 7:30 a.m. here in the Room to Room Weather Center. We'll see you then.
People tell me how lucky my daughter is to have been adopted. But really, we're the lucky ones. Learn more at adoptuskids.org.
Even though Gabe grew up in Alabama, Mississippi has now become his home and his family. And one thing about Gabe is he keeps his family safe.